So, as I approached working on my final project, the first thing that I really was thinking of was the big ideas of this course. And my biggest takeaways from it were, first and foremost, that the concept of literacy is not really limited to our traditional view of it. It's not limited to just reading and writing skills. So, while those do remain important parts of literacy, I think that the concept of literacy itself has been evolving. And so, as a result of that, I think that the types of literacies that we should be teaching students in school, we should also kind of take that evolved view of literacy and change some of our um, pedagogical practices to really make sure students are learning all these newer forms. So, I think some of those newer forms could be, some of the things that I focused on in my project, like media literacy, social media literacy, or artificial intelligence literacy. So for it, when I was going into actually working on the project itself, once I kind of decided that was going to be my focus, really proposing ideas for how to integrate those three type those three types of newer literacies into the overall curriculum, and proposing ideas for how to teach them at different stages of education. Once I had settled on proposing those as the main theme of my project, then that was really something that I just kind of stuck with throughout. So I didn't really change a whole lot. I didn't really make many changes to what I was doing once I was at that point. Didn't really use AI. I didn't really change much of like the nature of it, or I didn't really use on many tech ed tools in order to really help with it. It was just once I knew, I knew. So I think my project itself was influenced by some of the concepts of literacy that we either read about or had conversations about throughout this course. And I think most prominently, I think I really drew a lot from what we were doing during weeks 3 and 4, where a lot of what we were doing during those 2 weeks were, each student was going to find a resource about a chosen topic, a chosen type of literacy, and once they found that resource, they would post it on our website and post a prompt to go with it. So some of the things that I talked about in my final project itself were things that people had really discussed, and that was that kind of time period when we were all really just talking over different types of literacies. I drew a lot from there. So, yes, as an example, I mean, the topic that I had chosen during that time was about social media literacy. So, I found an article and I posted a prompt about, do you think social media is something that really has an impact on our identity development or on our ability to get really civically engaged? So during the conversation that really followed from there, I was hearing from a lot of other students about things like, being able to think critically about the posts that are being made and the things that we're seeing on social media, really being able to think about how accurate is this information, how legitimate is the source, is something that we're seeing, is it something that's really realistic to the way people live, and then from there, kind of how are we going to be living our lives, based on that? Are these things that could really influence how we think? So, during that time when I was really having those conversations with other students, that was something that I know I was really thinking a lot about. And then when it came time to do my project, it was something that I thought social media literacy was something that would be very useful for students to be using going forward. So I included that into the proposals. I had also read something from another student about media literacy, so that was another area where it's like, well, what is the value of media literacy? And beyond just what I'd already known about just verifying factual information, looking at the legitimacy and credibility of source. Well, another thing that I kind of picked up during that time that made me think was just, is there a way to kind of detect any possible bias in a source? So things like that were things that really helped kind of start my thinking. And by the time I got to the final project, those were areas that I was really thinking about a lot, and then started to come up with proposals for. So, excuse me. So I think overall, the biggest thing that I'd really learned from working on this project was that the concept of literacy itself has gone beyond just what we once thought of it. It's mainly, I think, due to just how much digital technology there is nowadays, but we can't just focus on reading and writing. In addition to that, we gotta do a bit more. We gotta help teach students about things like media literacy, social media literacy, artificial intelligence literacy, in order to really prepare them for their futures where they're going to be in this very digitalized world. So yeah.